Welcome to Gapology Radio with your hosts Mark Tinas and Brian Brokoff, authors of the leadership development books Gapology, IMBAR, and Speed of Purpose. At Gapology, our purpose is to help leaders achieve their greatest potential. To learn more about our groundbreaking books and training services, visit our website, gapology.org.
Hey everybody, welcome to Gapology Radio. As you are gearing up for the springtime ahead and making plans for getting outside to enjoy the weather, make sure that you build in some entertainment options as well. And I know that you're subscribed to this podcast, which fills one option, but if you'd like to have one more, think about ordering Gapology on Audible. We've heard from a lot of people that hearing Gapology is a much different experience than reading it. It must be how our brains work or something, but it causes us to process information differently when hearing it over reading. Whether you've read the book already or not, you can experience Gapology in a whole new way with Audible. And we have a convenient link on our website, gapology.org. And as for tonight's show, we're going to examine how failing to mind the gap can be detrimental to your organization. So let's go ahead and jump right in with Mark Tinas. Hey Mark, how are you doing?
Good, Brian. How's it going?
I'm good. I'm excited about tonight's podcast. We're going to do something a little different tonight.
It's a big deal.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a different topic than what we've talked about before. We're going to talk tonight about minding the gap, and we're going to talk about perception versus performance and how all that fits together. The thing I think is interesting is, we really haven't talked about mind the gap, and yet that's like one of the first parts of our book. So this will be a pretty interesting conversation, I think, tonight.
Yeah, 14 years ago, mind the gap was a big deal, and it's still a big deal today. And there is definitely a gap there that we want to talk about tonight, perception versus performance. And so for leaders that are out there, this is worth taking notes on and worth really listening to, because it's a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure all of our listeners have their Mind the Gap Gapology t-shirts on.
You're kidding, right?
No, I'm sure
I don't have one. What are you talking about?
The Mind the Gap t-shirt that we have on
on
our website. Yes.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. I am going to send you a link today. Oh my gosh.
I wear one t-shirt and it says Gapology.
Okay.
What are the other ones that I'm missing?
Well, we have all the signature logo ones with our Gapology logo, but we have a handful that are a few of the quotes that we talk about on the podcast and from the book.
What website?
So you go to gapology.org and there's a link there that you click on. It says click to shop, and you click that link and it opens up it's on teespring.com. So it brings you to the page there. And
thank you for telling me after 10 years.
Oh my God. You've seen these. You had to have.
No.
Oh my gosh.
So walk me through it.
All right. So we have T times M equals P. We have look in the mirror, which we say every single podcast. We've got I'm the gap, which we've talked about a million times. We've got one that just says identify the gap, close the gap. Another one that says gaps happen, which is the first line from our book. Then one that just says committed, one that says we are what we celebrate, and then one that says A player. So if you're an A player, aspiring A player, that'd be a good one for you. And then we have mind the gap.
So Brian, most of those quotes are mine.
I think they all are.
And I do not have those t-shirts. I'm unaware of that.
I'm sending you a link right now.
Those are available for our listeners?
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Oh, Lord.
I would wear that. I would wear nothing but that.
Well, I hope you wear something other than that.
Well, yeah, they're just the t-shirt. They're just the top. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
God.
Yeah.
What should my personalized plate be then?
I'm the gap, I think.
Oh, I gather so.
I think
that's a great
good.
Point.
Yeah.
So I had a perception of something, and I think I blew it here.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Oh Lord.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's dive into this. I think I think there's some interesting things to look at here because so often perception does cloud how we see things. So you want to kick it off, Mark?
Yeah, thank you. So one of the biggest gaps, and it may be you, those that are listening, I'm not speaking to Brian, I'm speaking to all of you.
Well, probably is me too.
It's Brian, of course, but it's me as well. But one of the biggest gaps is perception versus performance. So we get caught up in perception and we don't look at performance. So Brian's a nice guy. Just picking on you, Brian. Sorry.
Of course.
He doesn't perform, but he's a company man. He's a nice guy, and so therefore he's of incredible value to the team. And so this gap between perception and performance is huge. You need to address it as leaders. You need to take this podcast seriously, and you need to mind the gap. And mind the gap goes way back. Well, was it 14 years ago? Right?
Yeah. Well, mind the gap's been around for, years and years and years.
But for us.
Yeah, for us, it's 14 years since.
So what's the story there? Tell us the story.
Yeah, so Judy Shulak.
She was the president of Buffalo Wild Wings, and she wrote the foreword to Gapology because it exploded her organization. So go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so she wrote about her trip to London, and in London, their subway system, there's a sign for anybody that hasn't been there. There's a sign on the ground, signs everywhere that says mind the gap. And the gap is really that space between the platform and the train when it pulls in, the subway when it pulls in. And it's just a cautionary message to let everybody to not trip and fall and hurt themselves on that little bit of a gap. So in the foreword, she writes about that. And then she rolls into how Mark's been an impactful person in her life and how Gapology has really meant a lot to her.
Yeah. And how closing the gap is a big deal, and how being aware, which is what minding the gap means, is of great significance to all leaders. Yeah. So all leaders need to just step back and think about, okay, which gaps do I need to mind? Meaning be aware of. M-I-N-D, not M-I-N-E. M-I-N-D, mind the gap. And we have them. They're out there. You need to find them. They're significant. And when you find them and you close them, your performance will excel. So mind the gap is of great significance. And again, this is 14 years ago that this was written, but it is totally true today and of great significance today, and potentially of the greatest significance today. So think about that. And you as leaders own it.
Yeah, no, it's super important. In Gapology, that's what we're talking about is looking for gaps, so performance gaps. And with the whole perspective that we're laying out today, it's even more important is being able to take a step back and really looking at your business, not through some clouded view of it, but through reality. And it's an important part.
And the fact that I don't have the Mind the Gap t-shirt is a gap in Brian's leadership.
Oh, yeah. I'm ordering one already.
You're probably wearing it right now, and I don't have it on.
Yeah, actually, Julianne has it on right now.
I mean, so think about this. It's world changing. It's life changing for all of us that are here today. And I don't have it on. Mm-hmm. What the heck? So leaders, any of you that are taking notes, often the biggest gap is the gap between perception and performance. So write that down. The gap between perception and performance. So Brian's a great guy. I love him. He's terrific. But if the numbers were published, I'm not talking about this Brian. Performance wouldn't show that he's the great performer. Oh, so there's a gap here. So there's this gap between perception and performance. Leaders, you must live in the world of performance because it's very real. Perception may not be real. It could be, but it may not be. But performance is real. So what we found, Brian and I have worked with many organizations. We have found organizations that do not have metrics that equal to their purpose. Think about that. They do not have metrics that equal to their purpose. So what happens then is they base performance based upon perception. That's not real. The metrics of the purpose would be performance-based and real.
Yeah, it's incredibly important to define those things that will deliver your purpose. You need to define those things. You need to be very clear on it and set those as your expectations. That needs to be rolled into everything that you do so that your team knows what you're going after. They know what their role is in everything. And then that's what you measure. Otherwise, all you're really left with is perception if you're not clear on that stuff up front.
Yeah, think about it in terms of baseball. So we know that someone with a 300 batting average is excellent versus we know that someone that swings the bat really well is excellent. No. What's their batting average? Well, it's 100. They swing the bat really well, but their batting average is 100. Well, 300 is the performance level that we expect to be on our team. So this happens in organizations. Leaders will often surround themselves with people that say yes, that are cooperative, that agree, that don't cause issues, versus performance. So perception versus performance is often the biggest gap that leaders need to mind, M-I-N-D, think about, figure out. That make sense, Brian?
Yeah, definitely. And we're not saying that we don't want people who are agreeable and cooperative and those kinds of things. But if you don't measure the things that are critical to your business, the stuff that is working toward your purpose, then all you're really left with is that perception.
Yeah, so we have found leaders that do not observe the behavior of their team. They do not go observe the behavior of their team.
Right.
So think about that. So they're basing the performance of that individual on perception versus performance. So in the remote world, that's deadly. That doesn't work. In the remote world where everyone's working from home, look at their performance. It would be great if you could go out and observe the behaviors. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But either way, you've got the metrics and perception less relevant than performance. You got to look at this.
Mm-hmm.
We have Brian and I recently encountered an organization that would not allow, think about this, that would not allow the publishing and the ranking of results.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy.
What? No, for me, it's just like, oh my God, how's this possible?
Yeah.
So let me say that again. They would not allow the publishing and the ranking of the results of the team. We're not talking about publicly. It's within the team. They would not allow that. Think about that. So they're relying on perception versus performance. What matters? What drives the bottom line? Performance. What drives the culture? The behaviors that equal performance and the metrics that equal performance. So you totally fail in every direction here. They when I challenged their thinking, they said that they did not want to offend the team.
Yeah.
So wait a minute. So if we publish results, we offend underperformers.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the purpose of publishing the results. Because some of those underperformers with the right leadership could be top performers and could change the history of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
So it's frustrating from a gapology standpoint when we don't mind the gap between perception and performance. Performance matters.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And the biggest thing I see, the biggest risk here is when you don't measure performance and you're only looking at perception, is that your top performers will see that. And I don't know anything that's going to demotivate those top performers than not being recognized for their efforts. Mark, you told a story a while back on ranking, and you were meeting with someone and they said, hey, if you're ranking and my name is on that ranker, I'm going to be the one at the top.
So she described the fact that because her name was on the ranker every week, that it was that significant to her that she ensured that the number next to her name, because it was her family name, it was her parents' name, her grandparents' name, her grandparents' name before that, great-grandparents, I guess, that number mattered.
Mm-hmm.
And that because of that, that number next to her name would be a good number. So she took it that seriously. And that's the ultimate inexperience, that we have seen. But it is not perception, it is performance that put that number next to her name.
Absolutely. We're trying to build winning leaders here, winning performers, A players, A teams, A group. That's what we're trying to build here. And if we don't measure and publish results, if people don't know where they stand, it's going to be incredibly difficult to keep teams committed and really focused on the things that they need to be doing.
As we've seen Gapology expand across industries, many of the industries have variance in terms of how they measure people. And the measurement is often perception. And believe me, if you create the performance metrics that you're looking for, it changes everything. Mm-hmm. So you need to mind the gap between perception and performance. And you as a leader will excel because of that.
Yeah, I love that. So if you had to give everybody 3 tips, how would you narrow this down?
Define the metrics of your purpose. Be very clear on that. Maybe 3 of them. What are they? Define the behaviors that equal that purpose and those metrics. Be very clear on that. And then spend your time observing that behavior that you're looking for, those rankings, modeling that behavior, being that behavior totally, and minding the gap. And when you do that, you will be the top performer, not only in your organization, but within the industry, because you need to mind the gap between perception and performance. And performance is where you need to be. And many of your peers are minding the gap of perception, which is often irrelevant and does not create performance. So it's a big deal for leaders that are going to lead organizations in the future and be the top performers. That's it.
Yeah, perfect. That was a great summary. And, I think this might be the first, and maybe we'll do a couple of episodes on this. We might revisit this in a couple weeks. So if you're a listener, stay tuned for some other episodes down the road on this.
Mind the gap.
Mind the gap.
Mind the gap. Give me the damn t-shirt.
All right. Okay. I'll order for you.
I'm sorry I didn't order it. Sorry. Buy a shirt.
You're good. Okay. Well, have a great week, Mark. We'll talk to you later.
You too. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, you bet. Okay.
Bye.
All right. That'll do it from here. For more information on Gapology, head on over to our website, gapology.org. Everyone have a fantastic week. We'll talk to you soon.
This has been a Gapology Institute production. Visit us at gapology.org.